This is the gospel according to Jesus, according to the eternal Christ, according to the Lamb of God, according to the universal and eternal order of Melchizedek. Matthew chapter 23, verse 15. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! You travel far and wide across seas and land to win just one convert. But when you succeed, you make them twice as much a child of hell as you are. Day after day, you've been witnessing this existential warning from Jesus, exposing every human attempt to become a leader, a guide, a teacher, a guru, or an instructor, driven by the desire to control, manipulate, and influence others. It's all about building an illusion of supremacy and self-importance, but it's built on lies, hypocrisy, and a facade. Hypocrisy is putting on a mask. The hypocrite is the one wearing the mask, projecting a false self. It's when piety becomes a performance. It's about building something, supposedly in the name of superior knowledge, deeper revelation, or greater understanding, to impose on others what's done in the name of God. But in reality, it's nothing more than personal obsessions, frustrations, and insecurities turned into doctrines, rules, life protocols, or behavior codes presented as a path to holiness. In the end, it only produces legions of so-called holy neurotics. Have you been following this in recent days about these woes covered in previous sessions? Woe to you, scribes, you so-called academics of God, the scholars of God. Woe to you, Pharisees, who put on performances and display appearances, stereotypes, and faces that have absolutely nothing to do with the truth. Those who shut the kingdom of heaven in people's faces. You don't go in yourselves, and you don't let others enter either. Woe, woe, woe. Woe to you, because you devour the homes of the poor, and in exchange you offer prayers. For this, you will face a much harsher judgment. Woe to you, because you travel across the seas and over land, taking on cross-cultural missions to make a single convert, whether it was Judaism in Jesus' time, Christianity, Islam, or any other claim of human superiority over the rest of creation. Woe to you, liars, who pursue global conquest in the name of God, only to make humanity worse. Those who shut the kingdom of heaven in people's faces, you don't go in yourselves, and you don't let others enter either. Woe, woe, woe. Woe to you, because you devour the homes of the poor, and in exchange you offer prayers. For this, you will face a much harsher judgment. Woe to you, because you travel across the seas and over land, taking on cross-cultural missions to make a single convert, whether it was Judaism in Jesus' time, Christianity, Islam, or any other claim of human superiority over the rest of creation. Woe to you, liars, who pursue global conquests in the name of God, only to make humanity worse. We have to travel across the land saving people, because if they don't learn what we have to teach, they're lost. they'll die. And what they were teaching was something that made people dependent on them. It gave them a huge sense of personal superiority. But beyond that, they unconsciously spread their own misery, their own lies, their own deception through their teaching. There's no form of communication, catechesis, or indoctrination that doesn't carry the energy of the one delivering it. You may not know exactly what the lie is, but you can feel something's off. And while some reject it, others absorb it. And those who absorb it take in both the idea and the spirit with which it was delivered. And then Jesus says something that history itself confirms. He says, "You travel across the sea and the earth." When Jesus said this, traveling across the sea was like taking on a mission with the ambition of Elon Musk, embarking on an interstellar journey all on your own. That's how hard it was. The sea wasn't what we imagine today. The sea was the abyss. The sea was a mystery. The sea was something extraterrestrial. It was far more distant, deeper, and more enigmatic than anything we can picture today, even in the mind of any human being. You travel across the sea. You travel across the sea. Difficulty isn't a problem for these people. They travel across the sea and across the land. And that phrase, travel across the land, is also used in the book of Job in the Old Testament to describe Satan's movements across the earth. In a fascinating dialogue between God and Satan in the heavenly court, God asks Satan, "Where have you come from?" And Satan replies, "I come from traveling around the earth and walking on it throughout the world." You travel across the land. There's a layer of irony, almost quotation marks, in the way Jesus uses that phrase. It's a diabolical mission. Why? Because what you're spreading is your own disease, your idiosyncrasies, your obsessions, your phobias, your fears, your arrogance. And you do it all in the name of God, in the name of religion. You become missionaries to compensate for your self-image, which feels small and inferior at home. You need to become someone important. To those who know you, you appear grand from a distance, even practically divine in a place where you're sent in the name of God. And a God who, in most cases, isn't God and didn't send anyone. Not with that spirit, not with that motivation, not in that way, not at all. You travel across the sea and across the land to make a proselyte. Someone who lives by words, was born of words, and will live by words. Just as there are serial killers, there are also serial proselytizers, constantly creating proselytes. And what's the result of creating these children of words, these talkers of God, who learn to make money with their words and rhetoric, selling lies in the name of God? Jesus says they go around polluting the earth, dirtying human societies, and producing something even worse. Once another is made, they've created yet another bluffer of God, another deceiver, another proselyte, a repeater of empty talk. That's it. When the work is done, they've produced yet another planetary fool in the name of God. What Jesus says is shocking. He says that once this is done, you turn that individual, that talker of God, into a child of hell, twice as bad as yourselves, twice as bad as you. A child of hell, twice as bad as me. And it's no coincidence that when we look at history, as I said before, we see that Jesus was right. History itself confirms his words. Think about what has happened from the first century until now, from the first generation of believers to us. What else has happened, except that this has been passed down from one charlatan to another, from one word to another. It became just talk, then liturgy, then formatting, configuration. It became image, just the exterior. It became a mask, a transmission of hypocrisy, crossing through history, changing appearances to cover up the same sick, perverted, and masked essence. And every time we talk about the result of evangelization, about countries that once believed, about groups, people, and generations that believed, look closely. Generation after generation, this attempt to spread who we are has produced people who are much worse. Much worse. Twice as bad as you who created the sick one. His arrogance will be even greater, his cynicism even bigger, and the deception he spreads will be far more subtle or bold. Whichever direction it takes, it'll be doubly worse than yours. And so what we've done, what Christianity has mostly done, is spread its disease across the earth. Why? Because people who have never truly known the gospel decide to live as the academics of God, the missiologists of God, the pious faces of God for the world, without truly experiencing the fear of the Lord in their hearts or having their lives genuinely transformed by the gospel. They become, for their most misguided reasons, the spreaders, not of the good news, but of the worsening of humanity. It's the aggravation of diseases being passed along. What started as an idiosyncrasy turns into a collective behavior, then into a form of expression, an attitude, a way of being. It keeps getting worse, worse, and growing. And the result? It's me. It's you. It's our generation. Just look around. Woe to you. Woe to you who spread this. Woe to you who are the masters of this perversion, who are the sick example of this disease. Woe to you who, in this state, dare to spread, to disseminate, to turn your personal illness, anguish, fear, and emotional insecurity into doctrine, into teaching, into catechesis, worsening the world and creating children of perverse talk who only become worse, generation after generation. Woe to us. Woe to you. May these words illuminate us, shock us, wake us up, and alert us. To all of us, I ask this in the name of Jesus.